The movement of clean Jews from encompassing regions to Krakow starts in late 1939, soon after the flare-up of the Second Great War, when the German armed force overcomes the clean armed force in 3 weeks. Oskar Schindler, Liam Neeson, a fruitful financial specialist, shows up from Czechoslovakia in order to utilize the bountiful modest workforce of Jews to fabricate enamelware for the German military. Schindler, a deft individual from the Nazi Party, pampers payoffs upon the military and SS authorities responsible for acquirement. Supported by the military, Schindler obtains a manufacturing plant for the development of armed force rec units and cooking stuff. Not having a profound knowledge of how to appropriately run such an undertaking, he acquires a contact in Itzhak Harsh, Ben Kingsley, a functionary in the neighborhood Judenrat, Jewish gathering, who has contacts with the now underground Jewish business local area and the ghetto. They credit him the cash for the processing plant as a trade-off for a little portion of items delivered, for exchange on the underground market. Opening the industrial facility, Schindler satisfies the Nazis and partakes in his newly discovered abundance and status as Herr Director, while Harsh handles all organization. Harsh proposes Schindler recruit Jews rather than posts since they cost less. The actual Jews don't get anything, the wages are paid to the Reich. Laborers in Schindler's plant are permitted external the ghetto, and Harsh adulterates archives to guarantee that whatever number individuals as would be prudent are considered fundamental by the Nazi administration, which saves them from being moved to death camps, or in any event, being killed. Amon Goth, Rafe Fiennes, shows up in Krakow to start development of a work camp close by, Passau. The SS before long sells the Krakow ghetto, sending in many soldiers to discharge the confined rooms and shoot anybody who fights, is uncooperative, older, or infirmed, or for no great explanation by any stretch of the imagination. Schindler watches the slaughter from the slopes sitting above the area, and is significantly impacted. He by and by is mindful so as to become friends with Goth and, through Harsh's regard for payoff, he keeps on partaking in the SS's help and security. The camp is worked external the city at Passau. During this time, Schindler payoffs Goth into permitting him to fabricate a sub-camp for his laborers, with the rationale of protecting them from the ravagings of the gatekeepers. In the long run, a request shows up from Berlin telling Goth to uncover and obliterate all collections of those killed in the Krakow ghetto, destroy Passau, and to send the leftover Jews to Auschwitz. Schindler sways Goth to allow him to keep his laborers with the goal that he can move them to a production line in his old home of Zwickau-Brünnlitz, in Moravia, away from the last arrangement presently completely underway and involved Poland. Goth submits, charging a specific sum for every laborer. Schindler and Harsh gather a rundown of laborers that ought to keep them off the trains to Auschwitz. Schindler's rundown contains these gifted prisoners, and for the vast majority of those in Passau, being incorporated means the distinction among life and passing. Schindler likewise plays a round of high card draw for one specialist specifically, Helen Hirsch, who'd been filling in as Goth's maid and had been a casualty of his constant maltreatment. Goth is hesitant, wanting to take off with her yet realizing that such an activity would bring about his demise along with hers. He likewise drifts the possibility of just executing her, however at long last chooses to play Schindler for Helen's life. Helen is among the people who board the train to Brünnlitz. The men on Schindler's All's rundown show up securely at the new site, with the exemption for the train conveying the ladies and the youngsters, which is unintentionally diverted to Auschwitz. There, the ladies are coordinated to what they accept as a gas chamber, after a nerve-wracking encounter where their hair is roughly trimmed off and they are compelled to strip. They see just water tumbling from the showers. The following day, the ladies are shown hanging tight in line for work. Meanwhile, Schindler had hurried promptly to Auschwitz to take care of the issue and to get the ladies out of Auschwitz. To this end he payoffs the camp leader, Rudolf Haas, Hans Michael Rehberg, with a reserve of jewels so he can save every one of the ladies and the kids. Nonetheless, a last issue emerges right when every one of the ladies are loading up the train in light of the fact that few SS officials endeavor to keep a few youngsters down and keep them from leaving. Schindler, there to buy and by manage the boarding, steps in and is fruitful in acquiring from the officials the arrival of the youngsters. When the Schindler ladies show up in Zwickau-Brünnlitz, Schindler organizes firm controls on the Nazi gatekeepers appointed to the production line. Outline executions are taboo, maltreatment of the specialists is also, and the Nazi watchmen are not permitted on the processing plant floor. Schindler additionally allows the Jews to notice the time of rest, and spends quite a bit of his fortune obtained in Poland paying off Nazi authorities. In his old neighborhood, he shocks his significant other while she's in chapel during Mass, and tells her that she is the main lady in his life, regardless of having been shown already to be a womanizer. She goes with him to the manufacturing plant to help him. He winds up between a rock and a hard place financially, similarly as the German armed force gives up, finishing the conflict in Europe. As a German Nazi and self-portrayed opportunist of slave work, Schindler should escape the approaching Soviet Red Armed Force. Subsequent to excusing the Nazi gatekeepers to get back to their families, he packs a vehicle in the evening, and says goodbye to his laborers. They give him a letter making sense of he is definitely not a criminal to them, along with a ring engraved with the Talmudic citation, "He who saves the existence of one man, saves the world whole." Schindler is contacted yet profoundly troubled, feeling he might have accomplished other things to save a lot more lives. He leaves with his significant other during the evening, wearing Schein detainee garments, acting like exiles. The Schindler Jews, having dozed external the plant entryways as the night progressed, are stirred by daylight the following morning. A Soviet dragoon shows up and declares to the Jews that they have been freed by the Red Armed Force. The Jews stroll to a close-by town looking for food. A title card illuminates us that Schindler was pronounced an honorable individual by the Yad Vashem of Jerusalem, and himself established a tree on the road of the equitable in Israel, which actually develops right up to the present day. The destiny of Goth is likewise shown. He was caught close to the German town of Awful Tolls and returned to Passau where, disobedient as far as possible and reporting his devotion to Hitler, is hanged for violations against humankind. As the enduring Schindler Jews walk side by side, the casing changes to one more of the Schindler Jews in the current day, in Variety, at the grave of Oskar Schindler in Israel. The film closes with a parade of now matured Jews who worked in Schindler's processing plant, every one of whom respectfully sets a stone on his grave. The entertainers depicting the significant characters walk inseparably with individuals they depicted, likewise putting stones on Schindler's grave as they pass. Entertainer Ben Kingsley accompanies the late Itzhak Harsh's significant other, and Caroline Goodall accompanies Schindler's better half in her wheelchair. The crowd discovers that the survivors and relatives of the roughly 1,100 Jews shielded by Schindler presently number north of 6,000. The Jewish populace of Poland, when numbering in the large numbers, was at the hour of the film's delivery around 4,000. In the last scene, a man, Neeson himself, however his face isn't noticeable, puts a couple of roses on the grave, and stands thoughtfully done with this.